Hello everyone, today we are taking a look at Taloc on normal and heroic difficulty in the Uldir Raid. Taloc is the first boss in the Uldir Raid, and is the easiest boss in the raid. Taloc is a 3-phase fight with an even split of mechanics for tanks and DPS. Taloc drops trinkets for agility and caster DPS, as well as a 2-handed strength mace and a wand weapon for casters, making him a high value boss to gear up new characters. The fight takes place in a single room, but the main platform acts as an elevator and creates a fall hazard halfway through the fight. The only other hazards are puddles of blood dropped by players in Phase 1 and 3, and by adds in Phase 2. In Phase 1, the raid is focused on pushing the boss to 35% and the first phase transition. During this phase, the boss has 3 attacks of note. First, he will target random players and hit them with Plasma Discharge. Plasma Discharge causes players to take ticking damage and drop a pool of blood on the ground after a few seconds. So you'll want to run this to a preset raid marker to keep the pools of blood all focused in one area of the room. The second attack is Sanguine Static, which the boss targets at a random player, then throws several orbs of blood out in a conal attack. The danger from this attack is the melee group, which needs to move to avoid being in front of the boss when the attack occurs. It is possible for melee to get clipped by several orbs and get one shot, so this is a priority mechanic for them, while ranged characters should be able to dodge the orbs more easily. The third and final mechanic in Phase 1 is Cudgel of Gore, a tank-targeted ability in which Taloc will throw his mace. The tank needs to run this ability into pools of blood on the ground, which will cause the mace to clear any pools it lands near. This attack does fall-off damage to the entire raid, so the rest of the raid group should move as far away as possible from where the mace will land in order to reduce the damage. A few seconds later, Taloc will charge to his mace to retrieve it, so the group should avoid being between Taloc and his mace while it is on the ground. After retrieving the mace, the fight will resume cycling between these 3 mechanics. At 35% health, Taloc will run to the center of the room and kneel down, drawing in all blood puddles in the room and triggering Phase 2. In Phase 2, 2 types of adds will spawn that need to be dealt with. The first is a volatile droplet, which will fixate and charge a random player, exploding for damage and a knockback when it reaches any player. Because this phase takes place on an elevator, it is important to avoid being knocked off the edge. The best way to deal with a volatile droplet is to have a tank or other stout character intercept the adds away from the group rather than having DPS switch over to kill it. The second type of add is a coalesced blood. These adds need to be tanked and will periodically pulse a puddle of blood on the ground that remains for the rest of the phase. The ideal way to deal with these adds is to have the tank pick them up and slowly move around Taloc's blood circle, stepping whenever a new puddle spawns, while DPS burns down the add. After the elevator reaches the bottom of the room, Taloc wakes up and the fight transitions to Phase 3. Phase 3 is nearly identical to Phase 1, but with the added mechanics of the volatile droplets, which will continue to spawn and charge players. Because Taloc does not have any ability that requires a tank swap, it is ideal to have a second tank moving around the room to intercept droplets, while the main tank holds the boss and positions his Cudgel of Gore attacks to keep the floor clear. It is ideal to cast Heroism or Bloodlust during this phase, as at this point it becomes a race to kill the boss as quickly as possible. In Heroic, the only new mechanic is the Uldir defensive beams, laser beams that appear below the elevator platform as it falls in Phase 2 and deal fatal damage to players trapped in them. To avoid these beams, players have to move to the edge of the platform and angle their camera to look below the platform, allowing them to identify safe spaces to stand in and communicate with the raid. For groups struggling with this mechanic, we found it was helpful to place markers all around the room and simply call out which colors were safe to stand at various points in the phase. All in all, Taloc is a good, relatively easy first raid boss, and shouldn't cause trouble for too many groups. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below, and be sure to like and subscribe.